Welcome, my friends. You know, my neighbors have always loved their gold. Far more than their common sense. Gather round and let me tell you about 3 times I had to teach these greedy men a lesson.
Nasreddin Hodja once found himself in need of a large brewing cauldron, so he visited his neighbor, a man known as much for his greed as his wealth. He borrowed the heavy copper vessel, and when he returned it a few days later, he slyly left a small hollow ceramic pot nesting inside. The neighbor peered in, confused. "What is this?" he asked. "Congratulations," Hodja replied, his face a mask of solemnity. "Your cauldron gave birth while it was in my care. This is its child." The neighbor, delighted by such profitable, if illogical magic, asked no further questions and happily kept both. Weeks passed, and Hodja borrowed the mother cauldron again, but this time days turned into weeks. No pot returned. Finally, the irate neighbor marched to Hodja's door, demanding his property. Hodja looked at him with deep theatrical sorrow. "I have terrible news," he sighed. "Your cauldron has died." "Died?" the neighbor screamed, his face turning purple with rage. "You take me for a fool? A copper pot cannot die." Hodja simply raised a single eyebrow. "My dear neighbor," he said softly, "if you were willing to believe a pot could give birth, why do you struggle to accept that it can also die?" One afternoon, a villager arrived at Nasreddin Hodja's boor carrying a beautiful rabbit as a gift. Hodja was thrilled. That evening, a rich, delicious rabbit soup was prepared, and he shared it generously with the villager. A week later, 3 strangers knocked on the door. "We are the friends of the man who brought you the rabbit," they declared. Bound by hospitality, Hodja invited them in and fed them well. A few days after that, another group arrived. "We are the friends of the man who brought the rabbit." Hodja sighed heavily, but served them dinner. The following week, yet another hungry group appeared. "Let me guess," Hodja said. "You are the friends of the friends of the friends of the rabbit bringer?" They nodded eagerly. Hodja smiled, invited them to the table, and served them bowls of steaming, completely clear liquid. The guests tasted it and frowned. "Hodja Effendi, what is this? It tastes like plain hot water." Hodja smiled his wolfish smile. "Ah," he replied, "that is the soup of the soup of the soup of the rabbit."
One bustling afternoon in the marketplace, a starving beggar sat near a cookshop. He held a piece of stale, dry bread over a steaming pot of meat stew, hoping to capture just a hint of the flavor from the rising vapor. Suddenly, the shopkeeper, a man with a heart as hard as his day-old rolls, grabbed him by the collar. "Thief!" the shopkeeper shouted. "You are stealing the smell of my soup. You must pay me." The beggar trembled. "But I ate nothing. I only smelled the steam." A crowd gathered, and Nasreddin Hodja stepped forward to act as judge. He listened to the shopkeeper's ridiculous demand, then turned to the beggar. "Give me your money pouch," Hodja commanded. The beggar handed over a few copper coins. The shopkeeper grinned, holding out his greedy hand. Hodja held the coins next to the shopkeeper's ear. He shook them. Clink, clank, clink. "Did you hear that?" Hodja asked. "Yes, yes," said the shopkeeper. "Give them to me." Hodja put the coins back in the beggar's pocket. "The debt is paid," he declared. The shopkeeper was furious. Paid? You gave me nothing. Hodja smiled a sharp, wolfish smile. My friend, for the man who sells the smell of soup, the sound of money is fair payment.
If my tale brought you a smile, do not be stingy. Leave a like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. I promise it costs you nothing. Now tell me in the comments, which of my adventures should we animate next?